Good evening, everyone. This is Ron. It's Monday evening, a little after 6. So let's get started. We will see if we have any questions uh, and go from there. Any questions on what was discussed on yesterday or anything new that may have come up?
I have a question.
Hey, Evelyn, how are you today?
How you notice me wrong? But anyway, I'm picking. Um, where does when it says in the Bible the Word was made flesh? I forgot what scripture that is, and I was trying to look it up. Um, so my question to the family is: when we speak or we manifest things, right? Is that the same thing as making things flesh or manifest? Is that the same? What when it says that what I just said, and the word was I don't forgot what it was. Let me come back to that. I need to find where that scripture is. And the word was made flesh. So when we
I was
when
trying.
we think
Psalm 1 and 14.
Psalm 1 and 14,
John, John,
John
J-O-H-N.
1 and 14. Okay. So my question again is: when we speak, are we? That's the same thing as us calling that, making that word flesh.
Hold on.
Um, I'm trying to figure out how to explain it unless someone else already has it. Um,
Pastor Jay, and I can read it again so people can understand it. Would you like for me to do that?
I, I personally think if you look at it with the other verses, Evelyn, uh, I think it's saying that uh, the word is it's kind of what Pastor said yesterday about in your own language. It is made so that it can be understood by everybody. Uh, it is uh, made so that man, no matter where he is in his spiritual walk, will be able to understand this. I, at least something along those lines. And so anybody
um,
else? Yeah.
when I look at that, I I think about the word
Excuse
nefesh,
me, can I ask you guys to say what the scripture is again?
John 1 and 14.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. When I think about that, I think about the other word in the Aramaic for flesh, um, in relationship to, and he lifts up his eyes. Um, if the word is made flesh, then that means that your embracing of the word make it the most significant material thing to you. Meaning that your entire body responds to the essence of the wordless word. Meaning that is not what you hear, it's what you experience. And that experience is not only in the body, but it's felt through the body. You feel it. When you say, I feel some kind of way about that, or when you say that resonates with me, it's because you feel it. You're experiencing it. So the word becoming flesh is talking about um, it becoming the most material part of you. The most physical part of you is when the spiritual word is the moving essence of your being. I know how it's been translated, how it's been interpreted. Jesus being that they're talking about Jesus, is talking about you. Does that make sense, or do I need to talk about it some more?
Let me process it, and then if I have an additional question, I'll ask. Okay.
Okay, I will anyway endeavor to do it a little bit further. Okay.
If you want to, sure, please do.
Thank you.
When we talk about the body being a material thing, the body being a material thing responds to our mind, or it responds to our soul, or it does it back and forth with each. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay, the body itself is neutral. It has no movement, neither does it have any feelings whatsoever, unless there is a flow of energy. And if that flow of energy is dominated by your mind and what your eyes see, your body responds to that. And that becomes the most material part of your body. When you embrace the essence of the teachings, it is then that your flesh, your body begins to respond to spiritual experiences, as in it resonates or I felt that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, having said that, it is no different than when Jesus says that I go to the Father so that you can. What is this? It's in the 14th chapter of John. That when he talks about the disciples becoming who they're supposed to be, and his presence with them, he is limited in what he can do. But because he goes to the Father, it is limitless. What he's saying, he's not saying when we talk about the teachings, we are not talking about reciting words. We are not talking about quoting scripture. We are not talking about telling the stories about Jesus or the stories that he told. We're not talking about that. We are talking about the embodiment, the materializing of the teachings, which means that we have embraced and internalized the essence of the teacher, as opposed to the physicality of the teacher or the stories that the teacher told. Does that make sense?
It does.
So, that's the same principle of the Word becoming flesh. It is the energy. It is the spiritual essence of the Word, and not the Word as we hear it being spoken. It is the experience that we have with it. I hope that helps.
It does, but I'm still processing. I'm trying to grasp what you're saying. Let me sit with it for a minute.
Let me tell you, honey, this is one of the most difficult things to grasp, because it is difficult to visualize a word without seeing a word. That's why I say it is the wordless word, meaning that it is not something that you have to speak to experience. However, speaking it also gives you an experience, but it is not the word, it's the energy, it is the essence of that word. If I call you stupid, the energy that I apply to that word will make you laugh or it will make you angry.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the word, it's the energy, the essence of that word. And I determine the essence of that word by virtue of how I use it, whether it be in a negative way or a positive way. Does that make sense?
It does.
So you don't see the word, you experience the essence of it. Got it?
Yes, that makes sense.
So that's what this is saying. And to give you something that you may be able to grasp even easier, it is not Jesus saying that if you believe in the Father as I believe in the Father, not only will you do the works that I've done, but greater works than these you should do. If Jesus is saying that, I think that's the way it says. If Jesus is saying that, he's not talking about the works that he did as much as he's talking about the essence of what he has taught. It says, very, very, I say unto you, he that believeth on me, the works that I do, he do also, and greater works than these he shall do. He is talking about, and when you talk about the greater works, he's saying that these greater works cannot be done as long as I'm attached to you in the flesh. However, when you realize or when you embrace the essence of my being, when you embrace the essence of the teacher, when the teacher transitions, that essence brings you to a greater place of understanding, and it gives you access to what's been there all the time, and that is the reservoir of wisdom that resides in your soul. Does that make sense?
It does. And a lot of times when I'm reading, I put myself there, Evelyn, or I put myself there. Like, now the sun, you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying? Because to me, when I do that, I feel it more. It resonates with me more. Because you said, and then the word says that we are the Christ and we are the Word.
And listen to this. Just what you just said. I feel it. Did you remember that?
Yes.
I put my name, I feel it, right? That is the materialization of the word. That's when the word, the spiritual essence of that word becomes what it is supposed to be to you. It energizes you. It has become flesh. It is the most important material thing that you will ever experience.
Wow. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Any questions about that? If so, direct them to Ron. Seriously, y'all, if you have any questions or comments, please raise them. If not, Ron.
Yeah, that was. I was looking for what I had looked at that before, and it is a bit complicated. I can't find what I had written down. Something Benner said that I had written down. I couldn't find it. Okay. Anyone else? Questions or comments? Okay. We don't have any more questions or comments. What do you feel, Pastor? Which direction you want to look at, John?
Ron, before we go there, could I ask a question? I think I know how.
Of course.
The word land denotes conscience, right? Sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The word flesh denotes something.
Yes.
What does it denote?
The word flesh speaks to the physical body most times.
Right.
It speaks physical body. So when it talks about something becoming flesh, it's talking about the experiences that your physical body have when it is introduced to spiritual expressions or spiritual essence.
Okay.
Just like if somebody cuss you out for no reason at all, you feel it in your body, don't you?
Yes.
Because of the energy attached to it.
Okay. And so staying with that, when it's using the word flesh here, it's becoming, it's what you said about feeling it. You feel it. You feel the energy behind the word. So when we talk about like getting over somebody calling us stupid or something like that, are we rewriting how we feel when we hear that word?
Yes, because if you don't, you're allowing someone to control what you experience, how you feel, and what you think about yourself.
But that is a spiritual rewriting of a physical reaction.
A spiritual rewrite? No, I don't think it's a spiritual rewriting as much as it is the embracing of the spiritual essence with which you were created. You were not created stupid.
Okay.
Therefore, you can't be stupid. You can act stupid, but you are not stupid.
I got it.
And the way you respond to that depends on who's saying it.
That's true.
I can say you're so stupid, and we laugh. Somebody else said that to you, it's not a laughing matter. So what is the difference? The energy that attached to it, or the way you interpreted the energy that was attached to that.
Okay.
There's always a choice.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? We talked about energy, right? I'm going to approach something. When we talk about putting things in the macro, I want you to address that a little bit, if I may. But let me ask this first. Are you guys clear with how that's done?
No, I'm not clear.
Okay. When we talk about putting something in the macro, the people who pick up what's put into the macro are not picking up what we said. They're not picking up the words at all. They're not hearing the words at all. They are experiencing the energy of those words. And that energy of those words creates a choice in them to follow what they are experiencing from that energy by virtue of what we call changing their hearts. Or they reject it and remain where they are. So when we talk about putting things in the macro, this also speaks to what we talked about rest on the Sabbath. Taking the time to release what you have created. So when we put something in the macro and we follow it up with a period of gratefulness for having shown or given something, a seed that will enhance humanity, that is releasing what we have created in this earth, that energy flow. And that energy flow is more effective and it is more targeted than it would be if we are just talking and with no intent of having any change or experiencing or becoming the change that humanity needs. Does that make sense? Or is that clearer about the macro?
Much clearer.
Any questions about that?
So, based on what you're saying, you speak in the phone and everybody receive what is said. You may not be able to recite it, but you receive it. It resonates with you. Everybody that receives that has a responsibility then to release it. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Absolutely. And if you don't release it, then your well begins to dry up. There were people who came to Great New Faith Foundation to the class, and they stayed long enough to understand two scriptures and left because things were not going the way they thought they should. And they still are living from those two scriptures. There is no expansion in their understanding of wisdom to this day because they chose to take that energy and do with it what they wanted to, as opposed to releasing it for the benefit of humanity. And because they did not do it, they buried the treasure. There was no increase. Can you see that?
Yeah.
There has to be an increase if we're going to be the manifestation of harmony. And that increase comes by releasing it. When Jesus was resurrected and went back into the upper room, and when the disciples, when Jesus was resurrected and the disciples went in the upper room, he left, the disciples go back into the upper room, they do nothing. Because they do nothing. And this rushing wind they hear. And they began to speak. What are they speaking? They are speaking from the essence of their teacher. The essence of what they received from the teacher, that's what they were speaking about. And because they were sharing the energy, they were for the benefit of humanity understanding who they are, they were constantly being refilled with an understanding of the wisdom that's always been in the earth. Just like Elijah had to transition before Elisha could do what Elisha was destined to do, Moses had to transition before Joshua could come into his own. Teacher's transition does not end anything, it enhances it. When Jesus left his body, we are told by virtue of what we read and understand from the Aramaic that his disciples began to be reflective of his essence, not speaking necessarily the same words he spoke, and that is why you find in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you can find the same story, but it's told differently. Because they received it differently. It's not because there are errors, it's because they received it differently. They heard it in their own language as he taught it. Can you see that? And this is not rhetorical. I really think that we need to understand this. I really do.
Yes, I understand it. That
Okay.
makes sense.
It does.
Are there any comments about that or questions? Okay. All righty. Are there any questions about anything else?
I have a
Real.
question. No, go ahead, Charles.
The question I was getting ready to ask you, Rep, it was, how did John knew that God, sent him to be to be the one
I understand.
that foretold this story about Jesus?
I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I understand your question. How do you know that you are on a journey for truth?
Yes.
You know you are, right? Or are you on a journey to understand the wisdom of the Scriptures? Are you on that journey?
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, you don't know you're on that journey because you see some signposts, right? You know it
Right.
because it resonates inside of you, because of what you experience internally. Am I right?
Got you.
John knew what he was experiencing internally. You got me?
I got you.
Okay. Any more questions or comments? See,
All of this is internal.
that's what I said.
We lose that because it's all told in stories, but all of it is internal.
See, one of the reasons that Evelyn can ask a question like she did and get answers without having to do research is because our diligence in doing the research, our diligence in desiring to understand the nature, the essence of the wisdom for the purpose of enhancing humanity has begun to transform our minds. The transformation of our minds is very important. And what's happening is we are being transformed in our mind, in our thoughts, from a Western way of thinking to an Eastern way of thinking. We are, in essence, processing differently now than we processed prior to the journey, prior to the diligence that we have put into understanding this wisdom. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
I think so.
Yes, sir.
Think about it this way. You tell me you have a question. I say to you, don't ask me the question until we get on the phone. You ask me the question, I don't even know what it is, but I can respond to it. Ron, Kathy, Linda, Barbara, or anybody. We are Sheldon, we are able to respond to it. Why? Because we are processing differently. And when you go to the Aramaic or Hebraic understanding of that particular scripture that you have questions about, you see the same thing that we've talked about, because we did not lose our Eastern mindset. We covered it up. It has been buried deeply beneath the sand of Western thought. So, rising through that sand, through the blood that covered it, rising through that, from that, has given us an opportunity to see with the eye what was said with the lips 2,000, 3,000, 10,000 years ago. There is a resurrection here. And that resurrection is about standing up again, as Lazarus was resurrected, being stood up again, meaning that the Eastern mindset that's available to anyone who chooses to search deeply will stand up if you breathe life into it by your desires and your diligence. You too have the right to breathe into the face of Eastern thinking with your desires and watch it become a soul that lives within you. Or watch it show you that it's a soul that lives within you. We are not looking for miracles. The miracle is that it took us so long to get there. It's like doing an Easter egg hunt, and you see the egg lying there, but you really don't see it. You walk past it continuously. The miracle is that you didn't see it, or the miracle is that you saw it and walked right past it, as opposed to picking it up. The normality of it is that you saw it and you picked it up. The normal thing for processing is through an Eastern mindset, because it is from the Eastern mindset that the seeds of wisdom, of spirituality were sown and brought into fruition or matured in that Eastern mindset, to the extent that you had allegories written about Jesus, allegories written about Moses, allegories written about Ra, allegories written about these Eastern entities who, in concert with what we call nature itself, when in essence, actually in concert with the universe. And a return or a understanding or a embracing of our unicity with the universe is what releases the understandings of the wisdom that is locked in the black holes of the universe. Any questions about that? Or am I just talking? You understand what I'm trying to say, or what I'm saying?
I feel it deeply for the parts I might be unclear, but yes, I feel like I'm understanding much better.
Thank you. Anyone else? It's
I'm
imperative.
not getting it, Pastor. I'm listening to what you're saying, but for some reason,
Let me give you the bottom line.
okay.
The bottom line is we think like Jesus thought. That's what our mindset is now. And it's been there all the time. And we did not embrace it because it did not fit our doctrines of religion. We had to shed our doctrines of religion as much as we could in order for the thing that was covering up, the understanding of the wisdom was removed so that we could see with the eye what the book is really saying. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's much better.
I don't want to take us in a different direction. I see it, what you're saying. I see it in a deeper place too. If you can picture a young woman who has been abused and she is grown now, and she wants to be set free, and she's delicate though. There's something that you have to do, because that you have to know what you're doing, because that violence is there, and it's in her being. And you think of what you're just saying, not only the religion was beating us. It wasn't something that we readily accepted. It was put there through violence. So maybe the amount of time that it's taken, has taken, and still taken, I suppose, is to uproot all of that, every part of that, that violence that kind of hammered the falsehood home, rather than you just saying, okay, I see this and accept it. So at one point, you knew that this was false. We knew that this was false, but you had no choice if there was to be life. So all of that is there on top of this. So when you say get to that way of thinking, that pushes aside all of the violence and what accompanies that is you don't push through all that without forgiveness and without having some compassion. And so all of that had to be dealt with, or is being dealt with, as we uncover truth.
And it's not that we don't get there without forgiveness. It's that we can't get there without it. There is no way possible for us to get there to that way of thinking without forgiveness. Make sense?
Yeah.
And go ahead.
No, I would just add this one other thing. I also think what we're doing, if you look at it from a perspective of energy, this did not start with this generation. This being spiritual, this has not something that has been controlled through time and space.
No, it's not. This was available even before before greed began to destroy the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was always there. And it when it was corrupted, there was given for the benefit of mankind Africans who were one with the universe being brought into a place that had been pillaged by greedy men. And the decision had already been made to keep intact the words that had been written about spirituality, words that were birthed from the womb of the universe. That had already been decided. And during the voyages across the sea, that's what we mean when we're talking about a nation born on the waters. When the 1619 Project talked about that, that's exactly what I saw. This book being kept intact to benefit those who were destroying the material world and denying the reality of spirituality. And the Creator knew that the day would come when the sons and daughters of that nation that was born on the sea, that nation whose bones are soaked in blood, whose history is hidden beneath the mountain of lies, he knew that there would be those who would desire more than just to touch the hem of a garment to be healed, but desire to be the source of healing, not for those only who were enslaved, but also for the enslaver. A touchstone of healing for the enslaver. Because if the enslaver is not forgiven, then there is no love for the enslaver. And if there is no love, then there is no recognition of being Elohim, of being God, because God is love. And we are God. We are Elohim. All of this that we're doing, was orchestrated from the beginning and has filtered through generations until now. We are standing on the shoulders of ancestors who charted this pathway, seeking to find freedom without realizing that the book they were given was a book that had been lied about. And now here we are, beginning to see the true nature of what the book says and being the seed birthed from the womb of truth for the purpose of bringing balance to humanity by bringing balance to ourselves. It doesn't take 10,000 or a million people to do this, because it is not an individual person who's doing anything. Jesus did nothing as an individual person. The energy, the essence, did everything. And the essence of who we are is opening the gateway of wisdom and flooding the earth with love without bounds, without boundaries. A love that is unconditional, something that the earth always needed, but seemingly never was able to bring it forth from their souls. The task appears to be humongous, but it is as easy as taking a half of milk. We make it difficult because we vacillate. We bounce back and forth. We put too many priorities in front of who we are and what our purpose is in this earth.
Can I back you up a minute?
Yes, sir.
There, in this throughout this journey, there was something we have said all along that sounds very simple, but it has, for lack of a better term, it's a very magical thing, and that is, how do you change the universe or change the world by changing just yourself? How do I change all of mankind by just changing myself? And the nation that you talked about, born on the water, we all have a desire to improve life or increase life for the African, but you cannot turn on the light unless you turn it on for everybody. And the magic that you see in I change the world by changing myself is so real, and I have, what has happened to me is that concept has grasped me, that I see it now like I've never seen it before. We've been saying it, and it meant something to me, but I really see it now. I'm not sure I can explain it, and that's why I'm asking you to talk about that and the importance of it and where we are, since you're talking about the priorities and where we are and what we've done so far and all the journey so far. Where are we, and how has that concept helped get us here and move us forward?
Yeah, Jesus told us that no one lights a candle and put it under a bushel basket. A city on the hill cannot be hidden. Always talking about light. Without forgiveness, without unconditional love, we don't have light to give. Because any light that we have hidden it under a bushel basket. We have hidden it behind unforgiveness. We have hidden it behind conditional love. It is impossible to recover truth, recovering truth speaks also to the recovering the Eastern mindset. And how do we get to where we are? Throughout generations, the light was hidden, not because men intentionally hid it, but because men were so inundated with anger, with greed, with barbaric thoughts, with desires to get even, with desires to be just like the enslaver. In other words, to be just like their God. So much so until they walk away from who they look like to be like that God that enslaved them. All of these things hid the light. And when those who were engaged in the desire to separate based on race, to separate and return to Africa, Marcus Garvey, to separate and build our communities that look like the communities that had enslaved us, they were burned. All of these things we did was hiding the light. However, when that mindset, that energy, that thought to find freedom in a Congress that enslaved it, to find equality in a community that rejected it, when all of those things were abandoned and there was nothing else to do, there was a little light peeking through. And that was enough light to intrigue a handful of people to find out what that ray of light was about. And that was the beginning of the uncovering of the light for the benefit of humanity. However, in order for humanity to benefit from that light, those who were intrigued by the light had to recognize that they were created to be the light. And as that understanding became clearer, as they became more comfortable with who they are, then those desires began to be fulfilled. The desire for exposure did not start with Donald Trump. Exposure started with, actually was seen clearer, rather, with George Bush. When the economy was so bad, they decided to elect a black man to be president. They made an African president to fail, and he did not fail. And that produced the Donald Trump because they hated that this country had elected an African as its president. And now they went right back to the beginning of this nation and brought that energy back to power. And the light that was being sought by those who realized they had to become the light in order to benefit humanity began to talk about and see and embrace the reality that we must love and forgive without regard to who it is or what they've done. And we must ourselves be that love, that light. And now what we are beginning to see is the idea of the how-tos by virtue of being shown what rest looks like, being able to release this idea of glorifying, being able to release what we have created into the macro for the benefit of humanity. And right now, the balance that we have spoken of, the balance that we have meditated for, the balance that we've done all of this fighting for, is already here. Now we are being shown what is necessary for that balance, for that harmony to be manifested. And what we are being shown is that it cannot be manifested until we are balanced. And our balance looks like what Jesus experienced, what Jesus' disciples experienced. Nothing that they could do nothing that they could be offered, nothing that they could be given took priority over the journey to bring humanity to harmony. That's who we are. And as I said, I think yesterday or the day before, in order for us to manifest that harmony within, we must manifest that priority within and not allow anything, anyone to purchase us or to drag us away from what we know is the priority. That is the only thing that's standing between a continuation of what's going on and the change to what is supposed to have been from the beginning, as above, so is below. That makes sense, Ron? Is that answering your question? Or do you have questions about it? And for the rest of it as well.
It does answer the question. The funny thing, not funny, but the one of the things you said anyway that really, who knew that no matter how many times we've read the creation story from Genesis and glean understanding from it all the time, who knew the power in the seventh day? It says in the seventh day he ceased from his creating, and nobody saw the power in that. So it took the journey that you are describing, however many centuries this is, for that to be released. That man sees it, and that's amazing to me, to gain that understanding. No matter what you do within those 6 days, it's not whole, it's not complete until you understand the Sabbath of rest.
I agree. It's no different than bringing everything into existence that you want and hiding it in a building so it cannot expand, or planting an acorn in a jar and knowing that it's going to outgrow the jar, but leaving it there anyway. You have to release it in order for it to be what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
We are creators, but up until now, we had no idea what we are supposed to be creating. Questions, comments? I know a lot has been said tonight or this evening, but it's recorded so you can access it again. There are questions or comments?
Oh, somebody had a question along with Charles, and Charles asked his question. Wasn't there somebody else? Wasn't there? Seemed like it was.
Ron, it was me, but I think in listening, my question was answered as we went further along.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Thank you, and Pastor, and everyone.
I know what it was that I had missed it when I think it's pretty much in the same lines. Pastor said Pastor in more detail, of course, but Benner calls flesh the good news. The good news, and that was something that I had looked at before that had kind of intrigued me. So I just want to put that out there because that's what I was searching for.
And that actually fits with what people translate the gospel as meaning.
Yeah.
News is the word, the spiritual word of the Creator, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and that is true. However, the how does that fit with with Evelyn's question, now we see that, you know?
Yeah. Anyone else? Questions or comments?
I'll tell you something else.
Okay.
And the Word was God, and the Word was with God, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that Word is what? Is the material essence of your body because of how your body is guided by it. Then when it says that, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God,
Mm-hmm.
that's speaking again to us.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the only God who has a body is us. Our Creator doesn't have a body like ours.
Yeah.
And mind you, it says, and the Word became flesh before it says all the other stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very interesting.
It is interesting. It is indeed. Anyone else? Well, then this may be a good place to.
I got a question,
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If we it was a blank canvas, a blank canvas, and you got to be the creator of painting something on that canvas. How you get your inspiration? How that person like me can get my inspiration to paint something on that canvas to let someone know who they are?
Well, I like Pastor, of course, to answer that, but think about it, Charles. You walk outside right now, and somebody comes in your yard or come to you and has a problem or a question. What do? You become a blank canvas. You go inside of yourself, you listen, and you become whatever you need to be to bring enlightenment. That's all you're saying. That's all.
Right.
We create every day. We create with every thought we have.
What inspires you to go to that building for two people? Where does that inspiration come from? Inside of you, right?
Right.
You don't have a problem doing it. From
No.
what I can see, you enjoy it because
Oh yeah.
you're inspired to do that. So there is no place other than the soul that I could speak to you about where inspiration comes from for this journey. It's not like you can go to Walmart and get it on sale. It's internal. Everything is. The fountain, the internal fountain never ceases to produce. The production from that fountain, one of the greatest is inspiration. It inspires you to continue this journey, even though there have been many bumps in the road, there have been ravines to cross, and there have been walls to get through or to burst through. But the inspiration is so strong, you do it anyway. When you look at the great temptations in this earth, and you, not you, Charles, but you plural, offered all kinds of positions and powers and money to change your course, and you don't do that. That's because you're inspired from from your soul and not your mind. You are seeing with your eye and don't even know what you're seeing. You're seeing with your eyes, but what you're seeing is not anywhere near the value of what you're being inspired to do. At some point, maybe we could explore inspiration and its source some more.
Can I make a comment? What you just said, it reminds me of the butterfly going through, what's the word? Yeah. It doesn't know. Well, I don't know well, I can't see that it knows what's happening, but it's constantly evolving and turning into a butterfly. And that's what I saw when you just said that to Charles.
Okay. And you heard it differently than I did, even though I was saying it. That's hearing in your own language. Got it?
Yes.
Ron?
Okay. Anybody else? Questions or comments? Okay, again, a good session. Good place to take a pause. We'll ponder this and resume again Saturday. Thanks, everybody. Hope you have a great week. Hope you enjoy tomorrow. And just day of rest. Be careful out there because people still drink and try to drive, but just be careful. Enjoy your week. Thanks again.
The same to everyone. Enjoy yourselves.
Thank you. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Evening. Have a good rest of the week.